Community Designs is proudly brought to you by Design Build Expo, Australia's ultimate trade event for architecture, building, construction and design professional communities. Visit designbuildexpo.com.au for more information.
Hi, my name's Monique Woodward and this is a special edition of Community Designs. Today we're in Hobart. Let's go meet some of the people revitalising the city. We're at the waterfront with Sarah Bendeich, landscape architect for the City of Hobart. Sarah, talk to us about why this space is so important.
Well, this is, as you said, this is the Hobart Waterfront, and it's our, it's the key destination, I think, for visitors to Tassie, but also for locals. So it has a fantastic nighttime economy, and it's just a wonderful place for people to come. Lots of events and things.
So we've got these really great benches behind us. Talk about that and some of the specific interventions.
Yeah, so that the furniture you can see behind us is really designed to take advantage of this little spot here where you can actually get down to the water. So it's the only place along the waterfront where you can do that. And there's some trees here for excellent shade. So it's about creating a bit of a pause point for people to stop and enjoy it.
And the wider footpath?
Yeah, this great big wide footpath, which is a shared path for slow speed cyclists as well. And this actually connects our cycle path up, which goes from Glenorchy really all the way down here into the waterfront and connects through to Salamanca.
And so do you think this is sort of, I guess an exemplar project that might be sort of rolled out in the other 5 streets?
Yeah, I think what we've done here is created a fantastic place that puts people at the centre of the street. So removing a bit of the space from the road and giving it back to people on the footpath.
And I've seen some photos of this at night time. It's amazing.
Yeah, it sparkles at night actually with these beautiful new seats that are lit up. So it's sort of adding to that nighttime atmosphere as well.
Yeah, and the connectivity of all of these separate sort of little precincts.
Yeah, for sure. This spot here sort of connects up Franklin Wharf with the famous Salamanca, which is over this way. So it's a really important little spot.
This is obviously a really amazing community space. Talk about the additional benefits.
I think the benefits are really just the amount of space that we've managed to garner for the community. So the events that we have down here all year round just pack out these streets with people. So I think that's the main benefit.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. I'm sitting here today at Whisk & Co in Leonard Valley with Danny Veis. Tell us about this area and why you chose it for a cafe.
Initially we came here because our daughters bought a house in the area, went to visit, they weren't home, so we thought we'd come round and have a coffee in a cafe that was situated right here. And it just felt right, the area felt right, it had a good community feel about it. So the short version was we made the owner an offer and he accepted. So we took ownership of the property. We closed it down for a week. We refurbished to what it looks like now, pretty much. And fortunately, we've been busy since the day we opened. That was in March 2 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
Okay?
Yep.
So a lot of the things that we're hearing from the local community, this is exactly what Leonard Valley needed. You know, we needed a cafe. We hear from the medical centre across the road that they've been here for 25 years and they're seeing people here that they've never ever seen before. The shops up the road, the Bella Mac, they now open on a Sunday because of the increased people that come into the area. So it's been a fantastic opportunity for everybody.
And how did you get involved with the talks about the redevelopment?
I was approached by one of the gentlemen from the Hobart City Council, I think it was Stephen perhaps, saying that they were having a little bit of trouble getting a group of people together to talk about this. So I invited all the owners of all the shops, all the business owners, to come out and have a meeting and decide what we could do and how we were going to do what we could do. We decided to do a big street party here, and all of a sudden we were telling people what we were doing, and residents in the area said, what can I do, how can I be involved? There's St Giles down the road, they organised to have Pippa Pig, I think. So Pippa Pig was here, we had face painting, we had somebody who owns Westland Nurseries come up and just donated his time and brought up a whole lot of trees and plants to give us the idea of what the place could look like with a refurbishment or an upgrade. The council were great, they put in a zebra crossing, Leonard Valley RSL came and did a sausage sizzle around the side. The weather was horrible.
Oh, really?
And we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people here. So just the whole community feel was just tremendous.
Yeah. And so the idea was that it was almost, to give an idea of what it could look like when it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And for us to have the opportunity to show council, if we were to do something and make this pretty, this is what we would get in return, and it's a great place for the local people to come.
And so I heard sort of that there was a bit of competition between the different streets involved.
There were 5 areas that were all vying for the upgrade.
Yes.
So everybody put on a street party.
Yeah.
The brief for us was it had to have that community feel.
Yeah.
So we invited community, and as we were telling people about it, again, more people said, look, I'm a designer, how can I help? And then we came up with a thing called Linger Longer in Leonard Valley. We had t-shirts made, we had badges made, and everybody came and everybody basically lingered longer, and not only that, people are still talking about the lingering longer in Leonard Valley today. People are often talking about when's it going to happen. We're fortunate we still have meetings now every month with the council, so they're keeping us very, very involved in what's happening and how it's all progressing along.
So when will it start?
It will start in September next year, and it should take approximately 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, wow. And so do you have plans to stay open during that time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The only time we close for 2 weeks over Christmas is because I need a holiday. And so do all the team.
Yeah. And so how many people attended that party, do you think?
There were at least 400 people on the day. Lots and lots of kids. We had a jumping castle in behind the petrol station. It was just a great day. It was a really, really good day.
And so what specific elements do you sort of imagine unfolding here? So what's the design for this street?
They're talking about extending the footpath on this side of the road by approximately 2.5 metres.
Yeah.
That will give better access for the pedestrians walking up this side of the road.
Yeah.
Then we'll have some more seating, outside seating, which again, a lot of people will come here more so during winter, and then in summer we'll head down to Salamanca or down to some of the other areas. This will give them more opportunity than just to stay in Leonard Valley, linger longer, I guess. Then they'll have 1 row of parking and then a bike lane, right? And then two lanes and then parking again on the other side. And then of course they've got all the trees, zebra crossing, bus stops, and better, more disabled access.
And so do you imagine you'll ever have another blow-up castle? Sort of
a blow-up castle?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or sort of street party. I mean,
we often talk about it.
Yeah.
The group of us who did get together and did put all this together, we often talk about maybe we should do another one. Look, it's just such a great community feel. So, maybe. It's very possible. Maybe for the opening we might do one for the ground, and once it's all done and completed, we might have a big party and do it then.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so how do you think that will, I guess, enhance your business?
I think that giving people more opportunity to, obviously there's going to potentially be more seating, which will be fantastic. and more people will tell more people, who again will bring more people into the area. There's also another 350 homes being built in the area, so that's going to bring a lot of families in as well. So that will just be a natural enhancement of business in the area.
And what are you most looking forward to?
To it being finished. I'm figuring that there's going to be a little bit of pain while it's all happening, but the long-term gain for everybody will just be, the ultimate.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories and insights. Great. And good luck with it.
Thank you. Thanks, Monique.
I'm standing here on Elizabeth Street in Hobart with Mark Painter, Director, City Infrastructure. Mark, tell us why we're here.
Well, we're here because we've been faced with a number of local retail precincts that hadn't had any improvements for a long period of time. And so the community was starting to get, agitated. We were getting petitions that the community wanted council to come in and do something. And so then we decided, well, we could either just react to what's been put in front of us, or we could take a more strategic approach. And so we've come up with our local retail precincts plan, where we've identified all these different areas and prioritised them for upgrades.
And so how did the community sort of play into this?
Well, we've put the community at the forefront of these improvements, because really, if the community doesn't want it, it's not going to work. And so we've tried to make sure that we can create communities for these places that aren't just places for people to stop and pick up a bottle of milk or whatever. They can stop for a long period of time and enjoy each other's company.
And so how did you choose this street?
Well, this street was chosen because it really is a dead spot in town. We've got the CBD at one end and we've got North Hobart at the other end, and in between we've got this dead spot where nothing really much happened apart from people walking and driving to work. But we could see that there was a lot of opportunity for improvements.
Yeah, we noticed up the road there was a lot of trees and cafes, and you can see that obviously exists here, but talk to us about some of the specifics of the upgrade.
So we'd be looking here to look at what opportunities we have to create space for people, which quite often now is just space for cars. So there'll be a lot of cars parked in the street, which is fantastic. However, are they really supporting the local businesses? In a lot of cases, they're not. We've got narrow footpaths. However, we do have new businesses opening up as well. So we're standing in front of one new business here that's just opened up, and possibly in recognition of a large building that's being built on the other side of us.
Yeah, talk to us a bit about this building.
Well, that is a building that's being built by the University of Tasmania, and there'll be over 400 students living in that building come February next year.
And so how do you imagine that will revitalise this area?
Well, over 400 students, and a lot of them will be international students, and at night they'll be looking for things to do.
Is it your plan to put a lot of trees and cyclist lanes, etc.?
Really, the important thing here is to make it a nicer place for people to stop. So we'd be looking at wider footpaths, street furniture and trees, make it easy to cross the road, so some better crossing facilities as well.
Talk to us about the process.
Okay, we started out with a fairly traditional approach with the process. So we called tenders because we wanted to get some consultants on board to help us through the process. So we called tender for a fairly conservative approach where we would look at the traffic and collect data on all the different sites and then come up with a design. However, that's not what we did. We accepted a tender by MR Cagney, and their approach was somewhat different. And so we went down the tactical urbanism line, and which really resulted in us having 5 street parties in the different areas all on the one weekend.
Oh wow.
So very exciting. You could almost say it was brave of us. Stephen assured us that it would be fine. At that stage we didn't realise that Stephen hadn't done that before. However, we had a fantastic weekend. It all went well, but the really important thing was that the communities in every single case got together and started to form their own groups and really got on board and excited about what could be done.
And I can imagine people started to get really excited about the potential of the project and excited about the councils.
They did, that people got very excited, and as a result of that, the Alderman of the Council got very excited as well.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the Alderman decided to fund the project, which was a great result for us.
And so what was the street party theme for this, for Elizabeth Street?
For Elizabeth Street, it was a day out with your dogs. And so the community here were fantastic. They got so into it.
Yeah.
It was a Saturday morning event.
Yeah.
And look, the only thing that didn't go well was the weather.
Yeah.
It was Hobart in September, and so we had a fair bit of wet weather on that weekend. However, we still had lots of people, so it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, amazing. And how did you advertise for this event? Was it just the local shop owners, or?
Look, it was the locals who did most of the advertising. We supported them using Council's website. However, we found that the local areas set up their own Facebook pages. Some of them had T-shirts. They were really involved. So,
yeah. Cool. And is the mood on the street that everyone's really excited about the construction phase?
Look, absolutely. They're all excited. Of course, everyone wants everything to happen yesterday, but we're still in a planning phase, so we're still talking to people and working through the issues.
So do you have larger community group consultations or workshops, or how does that work?
Well, the first area that's going to be done will be Leonard Valley, and so there has been a project action team that has been set up, and we're lucky in Leonard Valley in that most of the community really want the same thing. So it's a very easy one to start with.
And this area?
And in this area, well, this area is actually scheduled to be the third one developed, and so we're only just starting to talk to them again now about what could be done. But as you can see, people are very excited about what's going to happen in this street.
So talk about the specifics, the specific changes that will go on in this street.
In this street, we're going to see more space for pedestrians. So that's really important in an area where we're going to have a lot more pedestrians. Of course, that can come at the result of a loss of other things that people value. So you could well see less car parking than you see here now. So that's something that we're going to need to go through with the community to explain to them the importance of creating a space for people. If they want people to shop in their shops, they really need to have people on the footpaths.
And I guess starting those conversations about cyclists and walkers from the community.
Well, absolutely, because this area is an area where you get a lot of people walking through. Not a lot of people living nearby yet. However, a lot of people walk down this street to the city to work, and of course they walk back again in the afternoon. So we want people to really feel that they enjoy walking through here and may actually want to stop here while they're here.
For dinner after work?
Absolutely.
Is there anything you would have done differently?
Well, 5 street parties on one weekend was a real challenge, and it really did stretch our resources. So if I was doing it again, we might do one a weekend for 5 weeks, and then we'll get 5 weeks of good coverage from the media.
And do you plan to roll this out after these 5 ones are completed?
We really haven't thought past these 5, to be honest. That's a big project in itself.
But we'll say we hope so.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining me, Mark. That's awesome. I'm standing in Battery Point, joined by Steven Burgess from MR Cagney. Steven, why is this place so important?
It's a very important place to the city, and you can just tell by looking at it how special it is architecturally. And one of the things we were trying to draw out in this project was to get people not to just appreciate the buildings at Battery Point, but to appreciate the street space in Battery Point. It's a bit of a shame to have all these buildings and all the activity sheltered inside and not being able to enjoy the streetscape as well. This is the public space. This is the part that the public owns of Battery Point, and it's frustratingly short of its potential and has been for years. And just this ongoing thing about whether it could be commercialised, could we open it up to more people, or should it just be the really quiet little residential enclave that it's become, full of these very special buildings. And so we gave it over to the community, said, look, would you like to try something? What could you do? What could we do? How could we make it more interesting, more alive? And look, these guys came up with a pretty good concept.
Which was?
Well, they decided to close off a little bit of a side street and open up some more public space, and they basically put on a street party. And it did draw people out of these houses, and they walked from a little way away. But of course, it caused a tiny bit of friction, saying, what are those guys doing making all this noise in my beautiful, picture postcard street? But it did open up a few avenues to say, well, maybe there is something we could do with this space and give it over to the people to use. And look, they got a little bit competitive. They wanted to have a better street than some of the other, and of course they had that natural architectural advantage that the buildings are so beautiful. And they put on a great event, and people walked from miles around, and I think that was the thing that surprised people, saying, well, you can't have any commercial buildings in Battery Point, any restaurants, any bars, because there's nowhere to park. But of course it's close to the CBD, and people walked. And they walked, got to see the street in all its beauty, daytime and nighttime, because you're walking, you appreciate it more. They met other people in the village. They got to see people who actually didn't live very far from them, but they'd never seen them before, because they get out of their house, into their car and drive to places. But getting them out walking, and I think they got to see the street in a different light, which was good for everybody.
And what is the demographics of the residents?
It varies a little bit. Slowly but surely, some of these really expensive houses, people are starting to rent them out to, a different generation of people to get some income stream. And it's led to, the hipster generation have given Battery Point a bit of a try. It's close to the city. A few of them get into one house, and it's kind of more affordable than they thought, because they don't have to buy a car. They can walk to different stuff. And I guess it's leading to a bit of a dichotomy in the current demographic, but more and more young people are starting to enjoy this space, and it'll be interesting to see if that is one of the triggers that turns Hampton Road into one of the great eat streets of Australia, or it's kind of always suffer that am I or am I not a residential street, or a place where people gather and spend money and talk and celebrate.
So what are the specifics of the plans for this area?
Well, the plans for this area the plan that they tried out was that they were going to close off one of the side streets and create some public space in front of a public building. And look, it worked fantastically. People came from everywhere. But closing a street, radical's probably not the right word, but it is quite an adventurous thing to do. And access is a premium when the streets are so narrow and it's not a perfect grid, so closing one off can cause some issues. So, it did cause a tiny, angst is probably too strong a word, but people said, look, we love that event, but we don't want it to be like that all the time. And maybe it doesn't have to be. Maybe they can, adjust their scheme slightly to say, look, every second Thursday and every Saturday we'll do this, and we can use the rest of the time it just goes back to being a street again. And of course we've all seen places like that, and they work quite successfully. So that could be the future for Battery Point.
And so what are the conversations like at the minute? Are there sort of workshops planned, or
Oh look, I think they think they're a little bit safe at the moment, as in, look, we tried to have a party, it was a great party, and that's over and done with. But as I said, there's that underlying, not youth, but slightly older than youth culture, who want to eat at some nice places in walking distance to some, CBD located houses, and there's a market pressure there. So it won't be able to duck that pressure forever. The market will come up with some scheme, and it would be great if the community would lead that, rather than sort of be dragged kicking and screaming in that direction. And I think, trying that temporary street closure space out and opening them up to different uses might just be the thing that says, actually, this is not as bad as I thought, and people come and visit me, and this, so, my street space has now become part of my life, not just how I drive to my house.
Because it's an amazing location where we're standing. There's the mountain obviously there, and then the water there.
What's not to love? And it's just a shame that the public part of that space just doesn't get used, except to park cars. And we've seen a few pedestrians, but the CBD is just there, the waterfront's just there. You'd think there's an opportunity there. I mean, the rocks in Sydney springs to mind, that it could be a great walkable place where, this could be providing lots of jobs for Hobart people.
And so was there a theme for this party?
I think their theme was lounge room in the street. So they grabbed some old carpet and they closed off the street, and I think it was the old carpet from Parliament House, ironically enough, that they used to line the street with. They put a nice couple of fire pits in there. Several people knew several people who had gin stills and breweries, and it was a genuine party. I guess in that sense it was a bit more pop-up than tactical, as in they didn't necessarily try out what they wanted, they just wanted to show the council that they were connected to a community as well. And they did prove that, and we got some data. People were walking from quite a long way away to get to this spot because it is so special. So I think there might be something in that to think about, as in, if someone wants to redevelop some of these houses into restaurants or bars or, whatever it turns out, you don't have to provide a lot of parking. People will walk here and they'll enjoy the walk.
Do you want to talk about your involvement and the key players?
Well, the key players in this case were just I guess it's the same with all types of street committees, but there were a few very determined people, and they did get a bit competitive. They knew that there were other streets that were putting on events at the same time, and they wanted to have the best fun. So they went to all the trouble. They got some quite well-known, the name's going to escape me, some quite well-known local musos to come and play at their event. As a gin still, 2 breweries and a couple of local restaurants set up pop-up places, and a beautiful lounge room setting. And look, they did a great job. And to be fair, we were allowed to back away from that and say, look, it's up to you. What do you want to do? And I mean, the first plan was quite elaborate. It took in about 4 streets and 2 intersections. I said, look, you've got a day. What do you think you can do in a day? And they came back with a nice modified scheme, and they owned it, and I think they got their own Facebook page. They did quite a few interesting things, and they filled the joint, so it worked.
Yep. Would you think about maybe having another event to try and again sort of spark the conversation?
I definitely think that this could be one of the places where they could have an annual or biannual, just to get things started and say, look, and people get used to using that space in a different way. I mean, I can imagine that some of the people living in that extremely quiet street that sees 10 pedestrians a week, all of a sudden having all these people turn up and that's a little bit of a rude shock. I mean, notwithstanding they probably participated in the event, it's still a lot of things happen at once. So, we have to nurse this location into its new future, I think, to take advantage of what's here. Yeah.
So what's your favourite, out of the 5, what's your favourite location?
Look, I think the Newtown location, just because they came up with such a bold scheme, I'd love for them to be rewarded. They work so hard, but I mean, they've all got the potential. I mean, if we could get this street going, people will, it will be a national significant street. But, all those communities really got together and worked hard. So, I mean, they all deserve to have some reward. They proved to us that their communities still care about Main Street. They're not just driving to shopping centres. They want to have a local gathering space, and I'd like to see them all be rewarded.
Yeah, thank you so much. Celebrating another design gem of Hobart, this gorgeous project by Room 11 was too good to pass up. Thank you so much for joining us for a special edition of Community Designs in Hobart.